My theater went endgame level nuts. Marvel Studios has Movie of the Year on their hands again.
Aborted projects, Reddit posts, and the most annoying fan wishlist tweets you can imagine all rolled into a glorified clip show slop.
Deadpool vs. Wolverine was fun and a great love letter to Fox's superhero run.
Love letter.
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 Love letter. Hey, what is going on, people of the internet? Welcome back to another episode of Movies Good, Internet Bad, a celebration of, is it cinema? Uploaded directly to the place that hates it the most, the internet. I'm Cory, this is Shane, and we're talking about the latest installment in the MCU, Deadpool and Wolverine, a record-breaking, box office smashing, claw fisting, lots of spoilers, everything going on today. This one's going to be really interesting, folks. Shane has told me, and he promised me up front, no one else is reviewing this movie the way that we're going to review this movie. So we're going to share our thoughts. And if you stick through to the end, we're also going to share our thoughts on what was released at Comic-Con this weekend, which is very interesting, the direction that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going in. So, Shane, how are you, sir?
I am fascinated by this movie, and I'm very excited to talk about it.
Okay, good. So
I literally just saw it like an hour ago. Cory saw it. You've seen it twice now, or
I've seen it twice. Yeah,
twice. Okay.
Yeah.
So my
not
thoughts
by
are more
choice,
fresh, but
no, but yes, I have seen the film twice. To set the stage a little bit, subscribe. Hey, and I'm a huge comic book nerd. I have more nerd shit in my room that I'm in right now than most people probably do. Shane is not. So this is going to be a very interesting back and forth conversation. I'm sure you're going to agree with one of us and disagree with the other, which will be very interesting. So, Shane, I'm going to let you lead this one off because I have a feeling that Cranky Shane is going to come out. What were your thoughts? Oh, spoilers, by the way, if you have not seen the movie, Jesus Christ, go watch the movie and then come back and see it.
Yes.
Shane, what do you think?
All right. So there's a couple ways we could review this. A couple ways I could review this.
Oh.
And my natural instinct says I should review it like the movie lover, film cinema lover that I am, right? And
Sure.
I don't think that's the right way to review this movie. I could say things like there's no story in this movie. The character development is half-baked. Wolverine, we're supposed to care, but we don't really know him. We don't know that Wolverine. We're just told about him. The movie was kind of ugly. Like, the whole thing looked gray, and there was lack of color throughout the whole thing. The cinematography was not great. The direction was not great. All that. I could go on and on for that. But that's not the right way to review this movie. Because it's not a movie. It's not trying to do any of that. So how do you review a movie that is not attempting to do the things I would review a movie for, right? And so I couldn't stop thinking about the Martin Scorsese quote that everybody has argued over on the internet for years. That's like, is the MCU cinema, right? First off, if Martin Scorsese saw this movie, his head would explode like the nice Deadpool at the end of the movie. Like, I think he would just cease to exist. But
Martin Scorsese is nice people.
But what is interesting is it's as if Sean Levy and Kevin Feige said, what if instead of like trying to be cinematic and trying to fight those allegations that we're not cinema, what if we said fuck it and we just didn't try to do any of that? What if we just gave the fans exactly what they want? The biggest fan service movie I've ever seen in my life, right? And so it's almost impossible to review it as a movie because it was almost designed in a lab for fanboys, content creators, that type of a pop culture that we're in. And so what I'm fascinated by is what happens when they do that. And what has happened is it's been a smashing success. And so that's where I'm super fascinated to talk about, because we're like a year off from Barbenheimer, right? And
almost
what everyone
exactly.
talked about, when everyone talked about when that movie came out, is like, if you just make good movies with like very artistic filmmakers and you put a good message and good filmmaking in, it'll be successful. And this is Disney saying the exact opposite of what we learned from that, and both of them worked. And so, what I'm super fascinated to talk about today is what does that mean for the state of movies? What does that mean for the future of movies? Are we going to see more of this type of stuff? Is Hollywood going to emulate this path, or are they going to kind of emulate the path that Oppenheimer and Barbie set us on maybe a year ago? And so I'll pause there and I'll let you give your thoughts, because like I could have just ranted about this movie. It was not made for me though. This movie's not made for me.
No, it's not. No. So I texted you after I saw it the first time. And I believe my exact words were, "You are going to despise this movie." But then my second text after it was, "It's also not a movie.
Yeah.
It is a comic book come to life."
I'm going to take it one step further. It's not a comic book. It's a 2-hour advertisement.
An advertisement for
what? This is a 2-hour Super Bowl ad for the Marvel Cinematic Universe and their acquisition of 20th Century Fox. That's what it is.
Interesting. Maybe.
And it might be the best advertisement ever. Like,
I mean, for $200 million, it better be.
Yeah, right.
Right. So my thoughts on this film, I'm very conflicted because I grew up huge comic book fan. I had the Captain America comic where he fights asthma, for Christ's sake. Like, asthma is the villain of the comic book, right? So I love comic books. I always have. And I lived through the dark ages of comic book movies, which coincidentally includes many of the characters that are on display in this movie. But even going as far back as like the Joel Schumacher Batman films and whatnot, like I was in the cinema for all of those because I always just loved comic books. And then we had this upswing where Batman Begins came out, and then The Dark Knight, and then Iron Man, and the MCU took off, and Winter Soldier came out, and the Avengers happened. And, those movies, while they were adaptations of comic books, but they were more grounded in reality, right? So they hit big box office wise, they hit big critically, they launched these mega universes and these franchises, and it felt like comic books could do no wrong, right? And now we get here, and it almost feels like this is a basketball reference, but do you know what a heat check is in basketball?
Yeah.
So it's where a player will go farther back from the 3-point line to see just how far they can make the 3-pointer, right? This movie almost kind of feels like Kevin Feige doing a heat check and saying, let's see how batshit crazy we can go and how far away we can veer from grounded in reality with our movies, right? And a lot of that got teed up because of the whole multiverse thing, and the MCU from Iron Man all the way until Endgame was all one universe. It was 616, the MCU. And now we're in 616. We're in 10005. We're all over the place with the different universes that are here. There's variants. We're skipping through time and space, like probably at least 10 times in this movie. And it almost feels like they're like, how far can we go? And apparently the answer is farther than this, because this movie made $500 million worldwide.
Yeah.
In its opening weekend. And it's R-rated.
Yeah.
It's not even like a safe PG-13 movie that you can take your kids to. Like, there are F-bombs, there are C-bombs, there's a lot of blood, there's a lot of guts. Like,
the number of sex jokes per minute in this movie is outrageous.
Right. and it still made $500 million worldwide, which is nuts. So the comic book lover in me was really excited about a lot of stuff. Like, I never thought I would see the Deadpool core on a big screen in a movie, right? That always just seemed like something that you think up in your brain, it's never going to happen, and that's fine, and you come to terms with it. Wolverine putting the cowl on and wearing the yellow suit after 20 years of having to wear black leather in the Fox universe. It always seemed like something you were never going to see. And the list I could go on for 2 hours about all the different wish fulfillment stuff.
Yep.
Seeing Wesley Snipes' Blade again, seeing the most insider baseball reference of all time with Channing Tatum playing Gambit, because he had signed on to do that movie. Then Disney purchased Fox, and then the movie never happened.
Yeah.
And they brought him in. Like, the audiences were like, huh? Like, the general public has no idea what's going on in any of that kind of stuff. They enjoyed it. They went along for the ride, and they were laughing a lot. But it feels like they were like, let's just go as crazy comic book as we can. Because part of the allure of a comic book is you never know what characters are going to show up, and you never know what weird team ups you're going to get. And that's how they've kept that medium going for 80 years or 100 years or however long it's been. Whether that works in a movie universe, not 100% sure. And that's where my conflict starts to come in, is because as a movie fan, it gets to the point where it's like, does any of this matter?
Yeah.
Right? Like, you watch The Winter Soldier, and Steve and Bucky have a couple fights, and it gets real emotional because they're best friends, and there's a connection there, and there's a history. And then that carries through to Civil War, when you find out that when Bucky was brainwashed, he kills Tony's parents, and like everything had a through line.
Mm-hmm.
And it all felt to a degree very real, right? In this, absolutely nothing feels real.
Yeah.
Everything is a joke, which if you're a Deadpool fan, that's the shtick, right? That's not a matter of like, oh, well, it's up to interpret. No, Deadpool is just a joke. Everything is a joke from the beginning of the comics all the way to the movies. If that's not your thing, you're not going to like this film. But I am very curious, because this one also kind of felt like a standalone thing. Like, it didn't really connect to the greater MCU, aside from using the TVA as a plot device to make all the multiverse skipping happen. So I don't know if this will really have this massive impact on the MCU that people were theorizing it will. It just kind of felt like a smaller story, really. And we saw the love letter tweets.
Oh gosh.
I don't understand that at all. They tell Deadpool, you can get away from your universe and get away from mediocrity and actually matter, which is throwing shade on the 20th Century Fox universe. All of the 20th Century Fox characters that are in the Void is referred to as the trash heap by Mr. Paradox in this movie. So all those love letter tweets to 20th Century Fox, I'm not 100% certain if it's actually a love letter, or if it's just like a nice way of saying, hey, thanks for coming by, Jennifer Garner. Here's an extra paycheck. Like,
and then
I don't know. I'm not sure, man.
Yeah, the ending montage in the credits where it was showing all the behind the scenes of the 20th Century Fox superhero movies. I was like, you just spent 2 hours like desecrating those films, quite literally, in the movie. Like, they're literally digging up Wolverine's corpse and killing people with it. I thought it was a little bit weird and conflicting to shit on the movies for 2 hours, and then it's like, but we love these movies, but also they're ours now, so forget about them. Whatever. Like, I tend not to take this movie too seriously, because it doesn't take itself seriously. Like, like I said, I as a movie, I don't think it's very good. Like, it doesn't do anything really well from a filmmaking perspective. But again, did they even care to do that? Like,
I'm not sure that they did. And the proof is in the pudding, because the audience, both times I saw this movie, were roaring with laughter.
Yeah,
and
my audience
applauding
was in.
And cheering, and everybody was super into it. And as soon as the movie was over, everybody starts talking to each other, like, oh my God, it's so good. I loved it. I can't believe it. I finally saw this, that, blah, 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 blah. So I don't know, man. I'm just kind of like a weird loss for words.
Yeah,
When
I
it
have a
comes
couple
to
of
it.
audience anecdotes if you want to hear them.
Oh
So,
yeah, please do.
um,
I'd love to hear it.
a couple scenes. So like the one, so I had people to my right that were talking almost the whole movie. I had an echoer. You know what an echoer is? Like where,
Oh
like in
God, yeah.
comedies where they'll say. So for example, in this movie, Deadpool says like gubernatorial, and then the person will go gubernatorial. Like every joke was repeated by the person to my right, and I was like, I'm
Oh
gonna.
God.
If I cared more about the movie, I would have like told them shut up. But like, I don't. Whatever. I'm just there passively. So
Yeah. And
whatever.
that's even in Alamo Drafthouse where you're not supposed to
Yes,
talk.
correct.
Wow.
So
That's
that,
something.
yeah, that was the whole movie. But some anecdotes. When he's like, "You were the X-Men," or "You were the X-Men," the guy on my left goes, "Yup." I was like, God. And then there's this part where Deadpool is doing like the Spider-Man things, and the
Mhm.
person behind me goes, "Oh, Spider-Man." I'm like, yeah. And then when Blade shows up, the person to my right was like a couple. It was the guy was to my right, and then his girlfriend was to the right of him. And he
Sure.
turns and he goes, "That's Wesley Snipes. He was the first Blade." I was like, "Fuck." But long
Thank
story
you for
short,
sharing those. I needed that today. That was very,
my
very nice.
audience was very into this movie. Oh, one last one, and I actually texted you this one already. But in the end of the movie, they do the callback line, which is the like, "You didn't lie, you told a educated
Made an
wish.
educated wish.
You
Yeah.
made an educated wish." And the guy like wrote down or something goes, "Yes." I was like, God, the callback, like,
Screenwriting 101.
yeah,
Folks,
yeah.
that's really what that is.
But I mean, that just goes to show, though, that like these, like what we complain about in movies, and what I'm like, make blockbusters smart movies again, and blah blah blah. Like, there's a large number of people that don't care about any of that.
Not at all.
Like they want to see their wish fulfillment.
Hmm.
It's almost like a theme park ride where they're like, the story is like, something has gone bad, we need you to help, and then it's like, oh, here's one villain and here's the next one, oh my
Right.
gosh.
Yeah.
Like it felt like that, right?
Well,
Where it's
and I
like,
think
we're gonna give you enough story to just combine as many cameos as possible into one.
the Scorsese quote calls the Marvel
A
movies
theme park ride, right.
Like that's part of the whole thing.
This
So,
was the like, everything he was talking about in that quote is this movie, for better and for worse, right?
right. Yeah, because at the end of the day, man, I'm no better than anyone else who's sitting in a chair that's paid their money to go see that movie. Like what you like, man. If this is your thing and you love it, then hell yeah, dude. Like that's awesome, And if it's not, okay, like just move on and don't worry about it. You know what I mean? It's not a very difficult thing to figure out. It's very similar to the Star Wars arguments that we have all the time, where it's like, I'm so done with Star Wars, I'm never watching it again.
Yeah.
And then they watch it again. And it's like, dude, if you said you're done, just fucking be done with it.
But I think
You know?
that's what's mostly fascinating about this thesis, though, is like, it's almost like a statement on fandom, right? It's like, we're gonna stop trying to do anything challenging. We're not gonna challenge the audience. We're not going to tell new stories. We're not going to, give you something deep or complex or make a statement on anything. We're gonna give you guys exactly what you want, 100% what you're asking for, and that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And I just wonder, like, is that the right approach for franchise filmmaking? Because we already know that Sean Levy is going to do a Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I would expect it to be almost exactly like this, where it's like, hey, you like that Luke Skywalker Mando ending? Here's that times a million.
Right. Because he was quoted as saying, I don't make movies for the 7 guys in the corner that are cinephiles or whatever. I make populist cinema or something. I can't remember the exact quote, but
that's about right.
I don't know. It's a little bit daunting, because like you said, last year, Barbie came out and had an insanely sharp script and had really good characters, and also was chock full of Easter eggs if you like Barbie, and Oppenheimer came out the same day, and R-rated drama, no action, just a really good script and really good performances, shot really well, and those were both insanely successful. This is the polar opposite side of the spectrum. but also insanely successful.
Yeah.
So I guess there's a place for both.
It seems that way, right?
Yeah.
I guess what I'm more fascinated by is like, where do we go from here, right? Do studios, for me, it feels like Disney will do more of this.
Well, we got a
The,
glimpse of that like last night at Comic-Con, right?
yes, yes.
Which we'll talk about in a couple minutes. But
yes,
yeah,
that's proof, right? Like they are. I think they've almost surrendered to the fandom, and they're like, "We're just gonna give you guys what you want, and we're gonna make our money, and that's it." Like we are giving up on telling challenging stories, and I'm thinking maybe some of the other studios might fill that gap of like, the Warner Brothers of the world, where they're making Dune and stuff like that, right? Where
or
Dune
even,
is this weird movie, but like it's very like cinematically grounded and like very artful.
yeah, or even DC at this point,
Yeah.
because like James
interesting.
Gunn's DC Studios is like it's going to be like an MCU-ish type thing, but at the same time, they're still making this new Joker movie that Todd Phillips did.
Yeah.
They still have Matt Reeves' Batman universe. It feels like they're trying to cater to a couple different groups of fans.
Yeah.
Whereas the MCU is like, we're just going to throw the net over everyone and just make it awesome and make everybody love it no matter what.
Yeah.
Which is it's a very interesting take on things. I'm curious to see, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years from now, what this landscape looks like, or if superhero movies are even still a thing at that point.
I think they will be. I think there's a big enough built-in fan base that clearly, like, this movie is making a ton of money. So
that's true.
It's clear that like the audience is there for it still. I think the reason why they didn't show up for the last however many is just they weren't very good movies. But
that's the thing, right? Because the last couple DC movies, you had The Flash, Aquaman 2, Blue Beetle, the second Shazam movie. Marvel had Ant-Man that didn't make a lot of money. The Marvels didn't make a lot of money. Guardians 3 did well, built-in characters, fan base, whatever. But like the vast majority of comic book movies the last 2 years or so did not perform at the level that they would have 5 years ago, right?
Yeah. And like I don't think that this movie is better than those movies. I just think it's aiming at a completely different target. Right? Like Ant-Man and whatever, Doctor Strange, and that, like Doctor Strange had like a good visionary director and trying his best kind of thing, and it didn't quite work out. It like aimed super high and missed, whereas this is aiming super low and nailing it.
And which is funny because that's one of the lines at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah,
John Favreau, Happy Hogan.
Yes, aim a little lower.
Aim a little bit lower, and you'll hit every time. And it's just like, are they talking to us?
It's a thesis statement for Marvel nowadays, and maybe Disney in general is like, we're gonna aim a little bit lower,
right?
And we're just gonna make sure that these are crowd pleasing hits, rather than trying to do something a little bit higher and maybe more like try and win Oscars and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and then like fail miserably, and piss off a lot of people apparently. So yeah, it's a little bit dour from the like the cinematic lover in me.
Sure.
But is it bad for the industry that a movie's making $500 million in a weekend? Probably not, right?
Not at all. I mean, at the end of the day, that keeps theater chains alive.
Yeah.
Right? Like you think about the theater that we went to yesterday, the second time I saw it, I haven't seen that theater that busy in a very long time.
I saw it at 9:15 in the morning, completely full,
right? And concession lines zigzagging, like, and that's where the theater chains make all of their money, right? And at the if we're being honest, you and I, like, when I'm one guy by myself who goes to see Longlegs starring Nicolas Cage, I go to the matinee showing that's $8. I don't buy any popcorn or soda. I walk in, I watch the movie.
The worst,
right? I'm the worst theater goer to the theater
like
chains.
The annual pass holder at Disney World or something.
Almost everybody that was in my theater yesterday had a giant tub of popcorn, massive soda, candy, families going to see it. The whole theater's packed out. It's good for business.
Yeah.
Like you can't argue that. You can like the movie, you can hate the movie, but it's very good for business. And if that allows theaters to stay, healthy, so that way movies like Longlegs can release in theaters, or any of the other smaller movies that have come out this year, then why not?
Yeah, I just my pessimism is that I don't think it has to be one or the other, right? Like if you go back even we talked about this in like the Twisters review where I said that like it clearly shows the difference in blockbuster filmmaking today versus 20 years ago, where 20 years ago even the corny schlocky blockbusters had like a pretty tight script, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they spent a lot of time
Yep.
on that, and like they mostly looked good and they were shot on film and lit well, and they had a lot of the cinematic qualities that these newer ones don't. And I just wonder, like, are we kind of losing that art, right? Like the Spielberg blockbusters of yesteryear are long behind us, whereas like, hey, this is actually a really really smart movie and it caters to a lot of people.
It's hard to say, man, because like Dune made $800 million,
Yeah, yeah,
right? And that is a very out there movie.
yep,
It just happens to be made by a visionary director and have really good performances and a perfect storm of stuff. Uh, the proof that you can have both is movies like The Dark Knight,
yeah,
or The Batman, or Winter Soldier. Like there are comic book movies that you can have your cake and eat it too,
mm-hmm.
right? They seem like they're becoming less and less frequent.
Yeah, and I was talking to a friend the other day, and he brought up a really good point, which is if it almost seems like nowadays you're gonna get a good artful movie if like one of 10 guys or gals makes it, right? Like there's maybe 10 really good artistic filmmakers. That's gonna sound terrible. There's more than 10, but like for
you mean like
blockbusters,
blockbuster
yes.
filmmakers, yeah.
But it's one of 10 people who are going to make a big blockbuster that like also hits the cinematic side, right?
Right.
If you don't get that, you're going to get some corporate think tank Deadpool-y type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Sean Levy is not going to he'll say himself he's not like an artistic filmmaker. He doesn't care about that.
Look at his filmography.
Right. Yeah.
Free Guy, The Atom Project, Real Steel, this, like,
right.
That's his bag, right? That's his thing.
It almost feels like if you don't have one of those 10 guys, I say guys, but I mean guys and girls collectively. If you don't have one of those 10, you're going to make this. If you have one of those 10, you'll make something a little bit higher brow.
Well, yeah, because if you don't have those people, studios interfere.
Yeah.
And it has to be check all these boxes or else go back and reshoot it, right?
Yeah.
If it's Chris Nolan or Greta Gerwig or Jordan Peele or Steven Spielberg or David Fincher or one of those people, but even a guy like Fincher, he's been like relegated to Netflix.
Yeah.
Studios don't want to give him money to make a movie that's going to release theatrically anymore, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
But that's the day and age that we're living in. You have to there's a line, and once you get above that line, you have enough clout to make the movie that you want to make.
Yeah.
And if you're below that, you have to adhere to what the studio wants. And even sometimes, like, I love Nope. I think Nope is a great movie.
Yeah.
It didn't make a ton of money.
No.
Right? Which, like...
And a lot of people didn't really get it.
Yeah. And sometimes that's going to happen. And even the best directors are going to miss sometimes. Right? But the thing that worries me there is that the studio might get gun shy at that point and say, well, we're not going to give you money anymore. Instead, we're going to funnel our money into the next multiverse shenanigans movie because we know it's going to make $2 billion, right?
And we're going to ensure our investment by we're gonna cycle into this bringing back the gang.
Yeah. So Comic-Con was this weekend, and Comic-Con is always interesting. And as somebody who's a fan of the genre and the medium, I always sit there because they never live stream any of these panels. You have to like sit on Twitter and watch the tweets roll through, which is ridiculous. But I sit there, refreshing my iPad over and over and over again to see what's happening. And Marvel had their big panel last night. They talked about some stuff that's coming. Captain America, Brave New World, which we've already seen an official trailer for that showed before Deadpool, which is shocking that we're going to get a movie where Harrison Ford plays the Red Hulk. That is like that blows my mind into a million pieces. They talked about Thunderbolts, which is kind of Marvel's Suicide Squad to a degree, but it seems more like a vehicle for Florence Pugh to be the star of.
Yeah.
They talked about Fantastic Four, which out of everything they talked about, that is the one that I'm most interested in.
Yeah.
That movie has a terrific cast. It takes place in a alternate universe, retro futuristic 1960s. Yeah. Matt Shackman's the director of it, which he made WandaVision. Like that, it seems like it's like a perfect fit for everything they're doing. But then at the end, they talked about the elephant in the room, which was the fact that they have 2 Avengers movies on their upcoming slate. One of which is Avengers Secret Wars, which has always been the plan. Yep. But the one that was coming before Secret Wars was previously going to be entitled The Kang Dynasty. But then Jonathan Majors went off and did some not so nice things. He got himself fired. And now that movie has been retitled Avengers Doomsday. They are both going to be directed by the Russo brothers, who are the directors of Infinity War and Endgame. And the lead of the movie, very similarly to Thanos in Infinity War, is going to be Doctor Doom, which is something that a lot of Marvel fans have been asking for. Like you've been talking about, Shane, in this video. Yeah. We're just going to give you what you want.
Yeah.
But then the real bomb dropped.
They take it a step further.
And off comes Doctor Doom's mask, and it's Robert Downey Jr. that is going to be playing Doctor Doom. I have no idea, no earthly idea how they're going to do this.
I saw a tweet that said there might be like an evil Iron Man comic at some point, so maybe that's how they do it.
They've done some What If comics where he's like an evil Iron Man, but it's not really like a Doctor Doom. And I don't think he's going to play Victor Von Doom. I think he'll play an evil variant of Tony Stark.
Yeah,
probably.
That sounds more correct.
But like, how do you, so as somebody who's not a comic book person, when you see that, what's your first read on that?
My first read on that is Robert Downey Jr. is an Oscar-winning actor who made us a lot of money, so we're going to make him do that again. That's my
read. He's 90.
That's exactly my read. You bring back the Russo brothers, you bring back Robert Downey Jr., you're going to just, finagle with the formula and just smash it all back together in an Avengers movie, and ta-da, it'll make a lot of money, right? And this is where I go down the, it's a business decision. Like, this is not a creative decision. If it were a creative decision, they would pick somebody else, right? This is we need to get Marvel back on track. Let's get Robert Downey Jr. back by any means necessary.
Sure.
and throw him in the Avengers movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because in Deadpool, they make jokes about how the MCU is not in a great place.
Yeah.
Right? Like they joke about the multiverse
not a good
stuff.
idea. Yeah.
He says to Wolverine, "Welcome to the MCU. You're joining at a bit of a low point," or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, and then this happens at Comic-Con. It's very interesting. I feel like I can't judge it 100% until seeing it in practice, right? Because like if you think back to 2006 when it was revealed that Heath Ledger was playing the Joker, the internet was like, fuck that, the guy from 10 Things I Hate About You, no way, that's terrible, that's the worst casting in history. And then it ended up being the best casting in history.
I don't doubt that he'll be great in the role. It's just like we literally saw him die on screen.
Right. But that's where multiverse shenanigans come in and save the day, for at least for the accountants. They save the day.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, it could be good. It could be bad. We'll see in May of 2026 whether or not it works out. I do think there are a lot of good actors out there that could use a life-changing role. Perhaps, very similarly to how, before he played Iron Man, movie studios wouldn't hire him because they couldn't insure the movie.
Yeah.
Because he was in it.
Yep.
Right. The MCU turned his entire life around.
Yep.
And gave him the life that he has. So yeah, maybe for him it's like not only a good way to make a ton of money, but to keep giving back to the thing that saved his career or whatever, which is super cool. But at the same time, like it could have been so many different people.
Yeah.
That could have played that character.
But so many different people wouldn't be on a marketing tagline.
Right. Exactly. Yep. So it's a difficult thing, and capitalism makes things tricky, and that's really kind of where we're at. Just with fandom in general, right? Like whether it's Marvel or DC or Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or whatever, right? A lot of decisions are financially and corporate motivated, and that's just the world that we're in. And if you don't like that, go watch A24 movies.
Yeah.
That's all I can really say there. And a lot of those movies are terrific, and you'll enjoy them. So, any other thoughts?
You don't want to hear my thoughts on this movie. No, nobody watching this wants to
kind of want to hear them.
It's like a movie designed in a lab, like to spite me or something. It's just, it's not my cup of tea. I knew it wouldn't be, but this one wasn't even trying to be. So, like you said though, like I'm not gonna get angry and throw things about it. I'm not gonna go on a rant because it's just not made for me. Like I've accepted that. I'm at
the end of the day,
who
cares? Right?
Yeah.
It's a movie. It's 2 hours of your life. If you like it, great. If you don't, great. You still got out of the house and didn't just sit on the couch and do nothing but stare at your phone all day.
It's very true.
Wow, man, we did it.
We did it.
I think we should do a video ranking our top 5 movies from the MCU.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because I'm very curious to see your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think you know my favorite, but I'm not
with your outsider perspective.
Yeah,
and
I think you know my favorite.
I think so, but I don't want to hear it now.
Yeah, you'll have to subscribe and wait for the next video.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who has subscribed, by the way. We did not expect to have this many at this point in our infancy as a channel, but we would love to hear your thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you excited for the future of Marvel? Do you think that the superhero genre is dying? Tell us what you think. Leave us that comment below. We will respond. We'll answer. Shane is very good at that. I'm terrible at it. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for more. There's some big ones coming out this month that I'm very excited about. Trap comes out next week. M. Night Shyamalan movie. Alien Romulus is out shortly after that. We've got the finale of House of the Dragon next weekend, so we're going to cover the second half of that season as well. So lots of stuff coming down the pike. We appreciate y'all sitting here and listen to us yammer for 45 minutes. And until next time, we'll see you guys in the next video.